Welcome to Life with Beth and Court,
where we teach you how to live authentically and build your best life.
one step at a time.
What are we mic checking with this lovely, fine January afternoon?
It's actually December still.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What
today's
year are we
December
in?
30th. Well, it's funny you should ask that, Beth Ann. And it's funny you should ask what we're mic checking to. Because I had it narrowed down to 2 songs, and I couldn't choose because they're my favorite New Year's songs. But then I realized one mentioned the other favorite in their song.
Oh my gosh. Is that like Inception? A dream inside a dream?
Kind of, yes. So I'm going to have some backup music for this one, and I'm going to need some space because I haven't done this since high school. You ready?
Does this come with dance moves? I have no idea what this is.
How do you not know what this is? Weren't you a teenager?
No. I actually went
Say what,
straight
what? Say
from
what?
infant stage to
Here we go.
22.
Here it comes, the party of a lifetime. 1st of December, man, I remember when the ball dropped to 90. Now it's 99, 10 years behind me. What's gonna happen? Don't nobody know. We'll see when the clock hits 12:00. Chaos, the cops gonna block the street. Man, who the hell cares? Can't stop the beat. Damn it, I was so close.
Is this Will Smith?
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. A new millennium. Yo, excuse me, Willennium. Big Will. Here it is. And we're gonna party like it's 19. Hold up, it is. Get it? Because it was Prince's 1999 and Millennium's Millennium.
I think I'm confused.
That's Will Smith.
Who? What?
Singing.
Oh, no, I knew that.
Oh,
Did
what are you
say
confused
Prince?
about? Yeah.
I guess I just don't know the songs.
You don't know.
Sorry, I just ruined that whole thing for you because I don't know any of the references.
Yeah, you were like staring me down. And I was like, why aren't you smiling and dancing?
because I was trying to figure out like what was happening.
You don't know Prince's New Year song?
No.
What?
Like Prince, like Purple Rain
Yeah.
Prince? No.
You're kidding.
I don't think I know a whole lot of Prince. And by a whole lot, like not at all.
000 party over, oops, at a time. Bam, bam. Bam, bam. So tonight I'm gonna party like it's 1999. There is something wrong with you. We need to move on. I can't even look at you.
As wonderful of a rendition as that was, I still don't recognize
Can't
it.
even make eye contact.
All
Move
right.
on.
Fantastic. Welcome back to another episode of Life with Beth and Court. I'm Beth.
I'm Court.
And today we're talking about the big 2020. We just rang in the new year.
2020. It's like prestige worldwide.
The crowd goes wild. 2020. So here's the thing. Today we're talking about why we don't do New Year's resolutions.
Gasp, shock, awe, what?
I love that you just put your hand in front of your mouth like anyone could see you do that.
Say it ain't so.
Yeah, so we don't do New Year's resolutions, and I think that might come as a shock to a lot of people, but there's a reason that we don't. Court, what might that reason be?
Well, do you want the short answer or the long answer?
I don't know why we're playing this like a 1950s commercial,
I think
but
it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it totally is.
Basically, how I see it is from past experience when
I
I was
was younger.
Basically, I think there's good intention with New Year's resolutions because you're trying to commit to making a lifestyle change or transitioning or stopping something or starting something. But the analogy I would use is like running a marathon. Okay, so what if
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, what if it's really hard because I'm not used to it. I don't do it. I didn't train for it. But if I woke up tomorrow and I'm like, I'm going to go run a marathon. I put on all my gear, I get out there, and for the first few miles, I'm like killing it because what happens at the beginning of the year? Basically, you're really determined and you're like, I've got this. Nothing's going to stop me because I've committed to this and I'm stubborn and I'm going to make it work. But here's the thing. No matter how well your intention, if you haven't trained, so marathon, resolution, if you haven't prepared emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever that looks like for you, you're going to be determined for the first part. You're going to get halfway through and be frustrated and exhausted and pissed because maybe you're not doing as well as you thought you would. And then 9 times out of 10, I should have pulled statistics because I'm the statistic person, but I'm just going to make up my own. The court cane says 9 times out of 10, people don't make it through their New Year's resolution for the entire year. And it's for good reason, because one, you haven't prepped for it. You just woke up and you're like, cool, tomorrow I'm going to start doing this. So you're setting yourself up for failure. But two, a year is a really long time.
Real long time.
Yeah.
Can we take a deep dive into this real quick? So, oh, it comes with sound effects. I like this.
Yeah.
You don't even have to add those in post. That was right there in the pre-production.
From my mouth.
A good example of this is a health resolution. So a lot of people, especially after the holidays, which BT dubs, I might have to go on a sugar detox. I got real hooked on those cookies, and then they went on sale, and they're gluten-free, dairy-free, and it makes me feel like they're calorie-free, which is not the truth at all. Anyway, I digress. So a lot of people get through the holidays. I mean, you have back-to-back holidays. So you have Halloween, a lot of Halloween candy, and then you got Thanksgiving, which there's just a ton of overeating with that. And then you have Christmas, and in the Christmas season, there's tons of parties, and at every party you're like, oh, I'll just have one. And then you know, we talked about this with gluten, when it's like, oh, I'll just eat the crust. And then you like, all of a sudden you're in a coma.
Our friends are also gluten-free, and we both shared like,
That
I'm just
was
going to lick
hilarious.
it. I'm just going to take the crumb. I'm just going to eat the outside and leave the inside.
It was pretty funny when Mike's like, I thought I'll just eat the crust. And then all of a sudden I was licking the plate and I couldn't remember where we parked.
And then they got pie.
So anyway, again, another huge digression. We were not prepared mentally for this. So a lot of people have this health resolution as the new year is coming around, and they're like, this is going to be my year. I'm going to drop 50 pounds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the thing, though. If you don't... Why are you laughing?
Sorry.
Oh, my gosh.
Sorry. Okay, I'm a grown-up. I can do
You're impossible.
Okay.
You look like the Hulk right now. Can we take a picture?
Sure.
Can I take a picture of you?
Yeah.
I'm going to post this on Insta. She is a sight to behold right now. Anyway, here's my point. There's a lot of people who make health resolutions coming into a new year because you're coming off the holiday season. You're kind of feeling a little trashy. You've, quote, cheated on your, quote, diet. I put those in quotes because I think cheating is a really unhealthy way to look at how you eat. But anyway, people want to get healthier. And the resolution is I'm going to immediately do one of several things. Run a marathon, which that analogy that you used, people actually they put crazy goals in front of themselves as far as physical conditioning. Or I'm going to cut out carbs altogether. Or they are like, I'm going to start exercising every single morning. I'm going to do boot camp. I'm going to do 2-a-days. I'm going to do all of these things. And what happens is, like you're saying, a week in, they're not prepared for it because a lifestyle change like that takes a lot of work. And you have to make those changes incrementally or it's not going to be sustainable. And here's the bottom line. If you're making a resolution that you can't sustain, there's no point in making it. And just like the best example here again is weight. When you drop weight in a crash diet, if you can't sustain that lifestyle, sure, a jump start is fine. Sure, there's certain programs that can help get your metabolism going or get you into the habit of exercising because you need that initial push. But if the changes you're making are not sustainable, you might as well not make them. Because then it doesn't become a lifestyle. It becomes an up and down yo-yo effect.
So 2 things. One, hearing you describe it that way, for the first time, my immediate thought was guilt. Like what you're describing is guilt from what you've done of how you've eaten. And now you're going to swing the other way because you feel bad about what you did and you feel like crap. Okay, now I'm going to go this way with it. So that's really interesting because I've never thought of it that way. Like you're feeling guilty.
You're welcome for that moment of enlightenment.
Yeah. I mean, did you know that's what you were explaining?
Slyly, yes.
I'm watching you.
No,
you didn't. So I think it's interesting because that's what I thought of. And then 2, I'm not saying that you can't have a resolution to jumpstart you. Like you were just saying, if that's what it takes to get you in that mindset, I think that's fine. But again, we're talking about sustainability and incremental steps that make sense. So the reason we don't do resolutions is because if you want to use that umbrella, that term, we try to live every day like we're working toward a resolution. But truthfully, that resolution is our lifestyle. So we're not waiting for the first of the year or after we've had bad food, like we're constantly showing up every day saying, what can we do to move us in the direction of our goal, to move us toward our vision? So to me, I feel like that's a very different lens than trying to do a resolution.
I used to coach people in this. I used to be a health coach and I used to be a personal trainer, and people, you would hear a lot like, well, I'll start over on Monday.
I was that person.
Yeah. No, and listen, a lot of us have done it before. I'm currently doing it with my cookie obsession.
Yeah, you've got a weird cookie obsession going on right now.
So there's the I'll start over on Monday.
Yep. I'll have a cheat day.
There's a little bit better, and it's I'll start over tomorrow. But the truth is, each meal you get to start over. The point is, if you're making a goal to get better, don't wait, right?
Yeah.
Like you can make that goal every single day. You can make that every week. You can make it every month. And so a lot of times when people are talking about resolutions, if you ask them as a follow-up question, so what's your New Year's resolution? They give it and you say, cool, how are you going to accomplish that? Crickets, right? Because they're like, well, you know, like I'm just going to like work out and stuff. If you don't currently work out and you don't write it on your calendar, you don't have the right clothes to work out, you don't have a gym membership, you don't have a plan to run outside, if you don't plan how you're going to get to that goal incrementally, you're not going there.
Well, and I can speak from experience that it wasn't until probably the past year or so. And truthfully, I still struggle with it for whatever reason. And this is just how my brain is wired. But I have such a hard time reverse engineering. Like I will put the vision out there. And it was the same way at my job previous. I had these amazing visions of like what I wanted to do and how I wanted to bring the center to life. And like, I remember people that I hired were like, I joined your team for your vision. And I was like, cool. How do you think we should do it? Yeah. And like, I still struggle with it. Like, I really have to be intentional and say, I have to draw it on paper. Here's the bubble. And here's the bubble like in 6 months or 5 months or 4 months. And like, now I have to reverse the bubble and say this step gets me closer, and then bring it back and bring it back. And the analogy I have in my head, which is totally effed up and doesn't make sense, is Hansel and Gretel with the breadcrumbs, because I know they get eaten at the end, so that has nothing to do with it. But I'm thinking of like the breadcrumbs that are the little pieces that build into the bigger, like it's this whole process. But I was that person. So I'd be like, you know, I'm going to start over and I'm going to have this goal and I'm going to get there. And if you ask me how, I'd be like, I don't need to tell you how. I'm just going to do it because it like that's just how my brain's wired. So I know that now, and I know I have to take time, or I have to like say, hey, this is my goal. If you can help me with accountability, like there's all these different pieces, but just know that there's nothing wrong with you if your brain works that way, because that's how my brain works. But you just will have to be more intentional, or have someone who can reverse engineer very well, a details person. Like that's why I have you help me with accountability pieces.
Your anchor of reality. Is that why you have me?
That's the one time it comes in
that's
handy.
the one time.
Well, and I used to think like I had to do it on my own. Like I couldn't ask for help. I couldn't ask for planning or accountability. And like, think of a gym, like when people go work out in group exercise classes together, it's because they're all there together, and it's that energy and accountability, and there's nothing wrong with it. So.
Well, and there's also studies too on how much community is formed and what a strong bond is formed when you actually move together in synchronized, like to a synchronized beat. So that's a whole different topic. But there are two things that we're talking about right now. One is having a plan on how to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish. And two, you just mentioned accountability. And so accountability, I found that one of the ways to be successful with accountability is not to look for an accountability partner who is a yes man or who is looking to please you, because what I need in an accountability partner is someone who will call me on my shit, right? Someone who will actually be like, you know, if you're like, I really didn't get to it this month, I'll try it next month. And they're like, oh, well, that's okay. I get it. Life's busy. Like, I need someone who's like, nope. Hold on a minute. Let's back this up. Let's go back to the drawing board. You said you would do it. You didn't do it. How do we recover from this? Because for me, I don't need someone who will just let me keep slipping and pushing off the timeline. However, there are some people that doesn't work well with, like your significant other.
Yeah. If someone tried to tell me what to do, I'd be like, excuse me, You might want to take a
Skew
step
me?
back. Skew me. So I agree with you, but I also think that they have to have a level of grace and compassion when it's appropriate, because
Yes.
use that situation with me being a recovering perfectionist. I will push and push, like I will go hard until I drop with whatever it is. I don't do it as much anymore. Like I have to be compassionate with myself and like give myself grace, and praise Jesus for Counselor Dan.
Counselor Dan, what a guy.
I feel like we say that in so many episodes. Like if he ever goes through and listens, there's just times where we go,
This
"Counselor
episode brought
Dan."
to you by Counselor Dan.
Yeah. So I feel like there has to be that level of grace and compassion.
Yeah, for sure.
When it's appropriate. What you need is a neutral Nelly who can go both ways. And our friend Drew, who is one of our best friends, is so good at that. Like he will call
Yeah.
you out, but he will also like
Gently.
tell you when, well, sometimes he just like puts it out there, but he'll tell you like when you're being too hard on yourself or when to be compassionate. So like having that balance, I think, is really important, because if you go in as the perfectionist, you'll go hard in the beginning, but then when you don't make it, you're going to be even harder on yourself and think it's a failure. And for you, you're saying like, if I don't have someone push me, then I'm going to stay where I am.
Speaking of Drew, he once said to me, truth without compassion is just cruelty.
Oh, like he made that up, or he
No,
took
I
it
don't
from
think he
someone
made
else?
it up. I think he made it.
Oh.
I think he took it from someone else. But with that beard of his, it just sounds much more wise.
Did the beard say it to you, or did he
Potentially,
say it to you?
I'm not sure. I blacked out, but that was the quote that I remember, and it's very true for what he does with both of us, actually. So he'll tell you the truth, but he's compassionate about it, and he's like, I totally get where you're coming from. However, this is what you said you would do.
Yeah.
So I do think that that's important, not just like brutal accountability, but some compassion and understanding while also holding you accountable if that's something that you need. I am a self-starter in most respects. There are times when I need a push halfway through, or when I'm like, I'm going to let this goal kind of slither out of view. And then I need someone to be like, didn't you say that you were going to do X, Y, Z? And I'm like, yeah, I'll get back to it. There are some people who love like Facebook groups for accountability. I can't stand them. Like they just don't work for me. I don't like reading them. I don't like being in them, but it's the same for group exercise. I'm not a group exercise person, but I know for a lot of people that's a beautiful way for them to stay accountable to their health journey. So everyone's different. Like we always say, these things these tips we're giving, these are things that we've found to be helpful or that have helped us be successful. It's not the end all be all. You're your own unique individual person. We have found throughout the years what works for each of us individually. Like we're explaining right now, like we're very different even in how we make goals, break goals down. I'm very much so a reverse engineer.
You're so good at it.
I will reverse engineer all day long, but you are the vision person who's like, what if? And you draw this big picture, and all my mind's doing while you're talking is, oh, so we'll need to do this, and we'll have to do it by this time, and this is what we'll need to do, et cetera, et cetera. So all of us have different
in those
strengths.
moments, I have to remind you, be more excited. I will literally say that to her when I say something exciting, and she'll just be staring like, yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, try again.
But what I'm saying out loud to you back in that moment is, cool vision, here's how we'll do it. And you're like, just throw glitter. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I am. I'm throwing glitter by actually laying out how to get to your goal.
So there's like a 7-second rule now where there needs to be 7 seconds of enthusiasm before we go into details. Otherwise, I just get really pissed off and I'm like, I'm done. We're done.
Sometimes I just have to sit across from you and send gifts because my face won't do it on its own. Anyway, there are a couple different components that we're talking about here that help us to successfully move toward a lifestyle that makes us feel like we're living aligned and living authentically. And no, we don't commit to that being only at the New Year's. We don't commit to New Year's resolutions. What we do a lot of times is design our lifestyle how we want it to feel, right? And so we talk about freedom a lot. That word resonates very much so with me. That's my top value is freedom. Well, my top 2 values, freedom and love. So anyway,
America.
we talk about how we want our life to feel, and then what is it that needs to happen in order for us to feel that way in our lives, and then how do we break those goals down and chase those?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say I'm totally like anti-New Year. I think it's interesting. Now I'm getting sidetracked like a squirrel. I'll say the first thing, then the second thing. The first thing is I think it's interesting that we both have felt that way later in our lives. It wasn't like one of us convinced the other, oh, resolutions are junk, like you shouldn't do it. Like we both kind of had that vibe on our own. And so it's just really interesting that we decided to be together and that we both were at that point where we felt that way. Because I wonder, I imagine it probably doesn't happen that way for a lot of people, but who knows? And then my other thought is I'm not totally anti-New Year. Like I love celebrating the wins of the year.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that have happened. I love reflecting, and we do like our own little things for New Year's. So like last year we picked our song of the year. So like song, I want to do that again this year. So like
mine was I Am the Fire by Hailstorm.
Oh yeah, mine was Tell Your Heart to Beat Again by Danny Goki.
Oh yeah,
it was a rough year for me last year, but not all of it, but like some parts of it. But so we celebrate in that way. Like we're choosing the song to symbolize who we want to continue to grow to be. So for me, it's more of like putting air on the flames. What do you say? Smoking the when you do this
fire.
With the accordion thing.
What?
It's like an accordion thing that you blow on the fire.
Okay.
Anyway,
sure.
That's how I see the little things we do coming into the new year. Like we've already been on a mission. I can see you laughing.
I was like thinking of the analogy of all the ways that you could have said like fuel on the flames or oxygen on the fire. Like you're just like, you know, the accordion thing.
It's like the accordion to your fire. Basically, I am so gone now. Okay, I'm back. Basically, it's like that checkpoint. So like I'm not starting over in the new year. I'm continuing what I've already been trying to do. So like we do the song. And then the other thing that I did this year, we were watching a sermon by Pastor Stephen Furtick from Elevation Church, and they had you write down the word that God's going to pray through for you. So not what he's going to give you, not what you're asking for, but like what is the word that he's going to pray through? And you're going to believe like that's what's coming your way. And so I chose the word intentional, and I didn't. I chose the word inspirational. Yeah, it was influential.
Oh my God, you do not even know your own word.
There's so many I words.
He says,
wait, influence.
I was right.
It's on my phone.
That's what I said.
I know.
Hold on, are you sure it's pray through? That God's going to pray through?
Yeah, like praying through to fruition. Like that's what's coming in your year.
But wouldn't you be praying through?
No, God's praying it through.
Very confused by it.
Keep up, Beth.
Okay.
Now that I know my word that I was so hyped up about and then forgot and said two other words, my word was influence. And so I really like that idea. Like I have it on my phone background wallpaper. I have it on my computer. Like I love this idea. And if you don't believe in God, that's totally fine. But I love this idea of like bringing energy and breathing life into what you're hoping to come to and what you're hoping to be. Now, some of you are probably like, isn't that a resolution? No, it's not, because it's already part of what I've been doing. Like I want to be influential.
Well, it's like a mantra, basically, where
like,
you're like, this is what I'm trying to manifest in my life.
Yeah, and I've already been on this path of influence for the past year or so. So it's like stoking the fire again. Like that's just the song goes in and the word goes in. So for me, it's like that little bit of like revival, that reminder.
Well, to use your examples though, too. So like when you're thinking about it as a mantra, right? Like so influence is your word and Tell Your Heart to Beat Again was your song. Mm-hmm. When you're speaking that energy into your life, it doesn't mean that you're not then making a plan on how to do those things though, right? So like influence is your word for the year, but that doesn't mean that you stopped planning social posts and podcasts and
we were already doing that.
We're already doing that. And so I think for us really what the new year is, you know, we celebrate the year prior. I mean, celebration is huge. And we should probably do an episode on that coming up because there's a lot of people who
celebrate good times. Come on. I tried to hold it in. I'm so sorry. Okay.
There's a lot of people who don't naturally celebrate because we've never been taught really to celebrate the small wins. And so celebrating is actually very foreign to a lot of people. But celebration is very important because if you don't celebrate the little wins along the way, like for example, we had talked about this publicly before about the likes on our Facebook page, right? To some people, 300 likes is not a big deal at all because they've got 150,000. Well, to us it is.
Right.
It was a big deal because it was showing that we were making progress with that word influence, right? And so for us, there's a lot of reflection at the end of a year and a lot of energy put forth into envisioning what we want to feel like in the coming year. And then we get to work making goals that aren't really, they have nothing to do with the new year. It's just continuing on with, you and I just did this. We have goals set for February and March that we're going to accomplish. The goals that we're working on coming up in 2020, we've been working on them since October.
And it's not a specific thing. It's a lifestyle. Like we're
Right.
not saying we're going to do this and making it so. I think that's where the problem is resolutions typically are so hyper focused that there's no wiggle room around it. Like I'm going to work out every day. Well, what if you just say, I want to make an effort to live a healthier lifestyle? And under that umbrella, you can eat healthy. You can start to work out. You can start with yoga. Like
I will challenge that one though, because if you don't have a specific plan on how to do that, how do you know when you've achieved healthier?
I'm just saying, I think the overarching thing could be living a healthier lifestyle because then you have more. So I'm going to challenge your challenge. Then you have more opportunity to get healthy through other avenues because maybe when you're thinking of weight loss, you're like, I need to work out. I need to work out. Well, 80% of losing weight is nutrition. So what if you aim for a healthier lifestyle and you start with exercise, but then you add in food? Like, so for me, this is us right now,
Yeah,
the
it
visionary
sure is, 'cause
and the
I'm-
details
yeah.
because we see it differently. So I also wanted to go back to the wins because I had something good to say there. I think we put boundaries on wins a lot. Like we define what's celebratable. I'm sure that's not a word, but I just made it one. So society and culture often defined. So like going back to your followers of 150,000 versus 300, in our minds, like we know all the real famous people have that many followers. So we automatically think, well, we can't celebrate 300 because that's not actually doing anything. But what is that telling yourself? Like what boundaries and limitations are we putting around celebrating when we hold ourselves to the standards of other people and what society says is worth celebrating?
Well, and also comparing your beginning to someone else's middle, right? Like, someone who's got, I just heard Jennifer Aniston got an Instagram account and immediately has 12 million followers. Yeah, well, I'm not Jennifer Aniston. And I don't need to compare my success to hers because our journeys are different. Our goals are different. What that path looks like is different. So that's a really good point too, is that when you're looking back on your year and celebrating, honest to God, I could probably say that for 2019, for you, there may have been days where getting out of bed was worth celebrating.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's different. So you should celebrate. And I feel like we do a good job of that. We go through waves where we do better than good, but I think we can still do better. Like celebrating little things that are just little things. You know what I'm saying? It's fine.
Interesting.
Don't minimize what's a win and don't let someone else define it for you.
So basically that is why the resolution time isn't such a big deal to us, because we are constantly making what you call micro resolutions, right? And we're constantly celebrating little things, small wins, and then creating the next micro goal that we need to hit our bigger goal. And for us, the ultimate resolution is a lifestyle that we are absolutely in love with. And so we just keep tweaking and refining, like, what does that look like? What do I want to feel? What would make me feel the way that I want to in the coming year? And so now that I know that, how do I break that down? And what does it look like? What support do I need in place? If you're a self-starter and you don't need that support, cool. If you do, go find a support group. Go find a friend. Go find probably not a family member or significant other, because those sometimes can be hard. But go find the accountability and the support that you need. But it's really about putting it down on paper, scheduling it into your routines, and really being intentional about how you plan accomplishing those goals, because when you make a goal without a plan how to get there, it's just a wish, of hope, and a prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I think it's important to address around New Year's and resolutions and that type of thing is it's really challenging for me when I see on social media or I hear people say, suck it 2019, you were terrible, bring on 2020, it's going to be a great year. Like they demonize the whole year. And you probably heard me catch it earlier when I said last year was a bad year for me. And then I said, well, not all of it, just parts of it, because that's really distorted. Like, was the whole year really bad?
Like every single moment of every single day, was it all terrible?
And that brings me back to a time in my life when I was really unhappy. So everything was all or nothing. And I would have said that like this year sucked, like bring on the next year. So if you're feeling that way, I'm not judging you. I've totally been there and I get it, and I'm coming from a place of compassion, but I would encourage you to really explore the year and say, was it really all of the year that was bad? Was it a bad month? Was it a bad day that I really just felt like that feeling carried on with me for a long time? Because I think it's really dangerous to live in that mindset where you can automatically say the whole year was bad.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've talked about this before, how, you know, emotions come from thoughts and thoughts become beliefs and beliefs, like basically it can go on. So if you have a bad day and you don't acknowledge it as a bad day, it then becomes a bad week and then a bad month and then a bad year. And so I really encourage you to examine it and say what parts were challenging and was it really the whole year? Because I think living in that mindset of all or nothing is really dangerous.
Well, and a couple thoughts there. If you are struggling with that, a really good way to snap out of that is to start practicing your gratefuls.
Yep.
Because if you're constantly looking for something to be grateful for, it's hard to categorize an entire day or an entire week or entire month or entire year as bad when you're like, well, like you said, this part was challenging, but I was actually really grateful for this part. So there's that piece of it. And you have to take responsibility over your attitude throughout the year, right? Because we can easily tank a year by just having a shitty attitude. And one of the most irritating things to me is when, you know, something happens and someone's like, well, of course it would happen to me. Why wouldn't it happen to me? Well,
I totally know who you're
with an attitude
imitating.
like that, of course it's going to happen to you, because what you put, that energy that you put out, you're going to get it back tenfold. And so I think at some point it's important to stop playing victim to what's happening and say, I have choices that I can make and things aren't happening to me all the time. Like I can have control over my life by the decisions I make and how I respond to what does happen. Because yes, sometimes really shitty things happen to us.
Yeah.
And it's our choice how we pick up and carry on from there. And I heard something one time that kind of totally reframed what I thought about attitude when I read that humans are the only mammals that can control, the only animals that can control their attitude.
Prefrontal cortex,
And I was
executive
like, that's
function.
so interesting, because you've never met a sloth who had a bad attitude, have you?
I mean, I've never met a sloth,
Oh,
but I am.
yeah, I guess I haven't
yeah.
either. But have you ever met a black bear with a bad attitude?
I'm not sure. But I
Or a
get what you're
deer?
saying. I feel like you shouldn't keep asking what animals I've met, but I get what you're saying. It definitely makes sense. And that doesn't, like, just to tweak that or add to it a little bit, it doesn't mean you have to handle it perfectly. Like, you're allowed to have emotions. You're allowed to be pissed.
Totally.
You're allowed to whatever. But you put a window on it. Like, or at least that's how I do it. Like, I'm giving myself this much time in this moment to feel what I need to feel. And then I need to start working toward a solution. I don't have to have it right away, but I need to be moving in the right direction. The other thing that I think is important, which I already did, but I'll identify what I was doing, is reframing. So when you say I've had a really bad year and you're thinking all of it was terrible, reframing it and getting really specific, because that's really important to say, okay, what part of the year was really bad? okay, I had a really bad month in January because this happened. So it made me feel like it was a really bad year. And then on the other side, saying, while that felt like it was a bad year because of the bad month, I had a really great month in February because I went and saw family, or I went and did this. Because if you can get as specific as possible, it breaks through the black and white because you're taking emotion out of the equation and you're putting logic into place. So the more that you can break through the emotion, because if we let emotions control our lives, we would be in big trouble. But taking that away and then really identifying specifically, this is the facts, like this is what happened, and it made it feel this way, but the reality was it wasn't that way. So I think that's really important too.
So hopefully some of these tips and tricks are helpful for you. As we always say, take what's helpful, leave the rest. This is how we approach the new year. We do a lot of reflecting, and we look into the future and ask ourselves how we want our lives to feel and what needs to happen in order to make us feel that way. And then we put these different things in place, like micro goals and accountability and reframing and checking our attitude and all these different things. So if you are listening to this and you're thinking, I want to do that, I'm not sure how though, I don't know the first steps, DM us. Just send us a message on Facebook or Instagram. We'd be happy to walk you through that. We also want to hear how you approach New Year's, what you do, how you approach goals, goal setting, what the new year looks like for you as far as celebrating and planning for the future.
And if you do New Year's resolutions and you are like pro resolution, we want to hear about that too. Just because it doesn't work for us doesn't mean we don't want to hear how you do it. So don't feel discouraged. Like, we want to hear what that looks like for you.
All right, guys, this has been another fun Saturday morning. We hope you've had fun too, taking us wherever you are. If you're mowing the lawn, it's winter. I doubt you'll be doing that.
Not for everyone.
Not for everyone. That's true. Mowing the lawn, going on a drive, going on a walk, snow blowing, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, we're happy you took us with you. And we'll see you next Saturday. Until then, keep building your best life.
Bye, guys.